I kept encountering young versions of me. I wasn't seeing happy me. I was seeing scared me. I was seeing who just desperately wanted to feel safe. Fortunately, I grew up an only child of a very liberal mom and dad. I grew up down in Florida, and I was a young gay kid. I was very fortunate to have an upbringing where that was never an issue, where I was given a very clear gay identity when I was very young. My mom sat me down, had a talk with me about some men love women and they're called straight. Some men love men, they're called gay. And that was a gift given to me when I was maybe all of 6 years old. So I had a very normalized me being who I was. And I always knew that I was gay. That was always a part of my life outside of the little insular space of me and my folks. The world wasn't anywhere near as accepting. I knew this, and I carried around a lot of fear and anxiety. That was a big part of life. It was something that kind of got woven in all through many years. And I also had a father who was emotionally not present. I think he was just a man of his generation. My mother loved me as much as a mom can, but she also had her own mental health issues. A lot of that ended up playing into my life, getting woven into the adult that I became, how that manifested itself in my relationships, both friendships, partnerships, how that manifests now is I'm married now to a wonderful guy with a lot of these issues around what my own self-worth, just who it meant to be a gay guy, what it meant to be an individual, what it meant to be me, and then outside of the gay, just dealing with a parent who had mental health struggles, not knowing when I was younger that that wasn't normal. Being a child, being asked to play the part of a grown-up, of a parent, that wasn't great. A lot of that messaging got woven very deeply into the fabric of my life and how that, I think, ties into my psychedelic journey. I'd had friends over the years who tripped going to Fish concerts, did the mushroom chocolates and talked about the experience. I actually remember years ago, I lived in a bunch of places. One of the places I lived was Washington, D.C., and I worked at a fantastic little bookstore. The two owners and I became friends, and we were out having dinner one night. Each of them was talking about some of their experiences with drugs, basically. The guy was telling me that he was very much into LSD and he'd done mushrooms. I remember him telling me about his experience and being terrified by it, that I just couldn't imagine. And I think I realize more now that that had a lot to do with control. It's been a leitmotif. This constant thing in my adult life is fear of losing control, of letting go, of not being in control, whether it's myself. It's manifested in perfectionism and just things that have not been really beneficial, I don't think, to my well-being. There were also a lot of other people I talked to, very good friends, who had wonderful recreational experiences. They talked about just how freeing it was. It still scared me, the idea of the loss of control that kept coming back to, like, oh my God, what am I going to do? There was also just that odd background stuff of childhood, of the public service announcements. If you do the psychedelic and have flashbacks. In fact, one I remember so distinctly. It was this story. The young man had taken LSD. He was having flashbacks, and in this one flashback, he saw his mother chopping him to death with a hatchet. In the program, they said that to this young man, the experience was entirely real. And I can still remember being so freaked out. This horrible thing could happen. As I got older, I was meeting more people who were more mature, but who had been experiencing and using psychedelics in a far different way. Then in the last couple of years, there's this great resurgence in interest and a lot more information and a lot more people saying, yeah, all that stuff that was pumped into our heads when we were young was bullshit. It was not true. It brought me closer to this desire to explore more deeply. I also myself, after watching my mother go through a lot of struggles with antidepressants and with other just medication she was on, I've always been very personally very reticent about antidepressant pharmaceuticals from my own personal experience. I've also come to learn that a lot of what she was going through, I don't think it had anything to do with the danger of the drugs themselves. I found that it also left me feeling a lot more drawn to more natural, organic plant medicine, basically. My husband now has grew up with that. Something that we both are very open to and embrace very strongly is this idea of the wisdom of the earth as plant medicine, these things that have, like, they have developed and evolved just like we have. That exposure to that, as I've grown older, it's just become a different experience. And I've had to go back and examine, well, what did I learn before? And okay, is there any real evidence for that? And over, it's like, no. That it was a scare tactic. And unfortunately, that crap from the early 70s, man, it worked for me up until the last few years. What I was looking for and what I have always been looking for, and I continue to look for in my journeying, is a way to let go. A lot of experiences, especially the ones that we feel trauma around or we feel pain. I think the Buddhists would call them samskaras, these ideas of these wounds that we hold on to. In my mind, they are all in this enormous room. Between this room and me now, there is this wall and there's a door with this big lock on it. I have my therapist, and I've done that off and on for years to deal with my stuff. And I've been able to get glimpses and occasionally have some access. But for the most part, I always feel like there's this locked door between me and these past things that are just hanging around. For me, the letting go is, with my journeying, what has allowed me to do. What the psilocybin has offered me is basically a key. He just gently opens the lock and the door opens. Then the doors open, and here are these past things. And it allows me to walk in there and see these things and to encounter these old versions of me, these past versions of me, these places where I hurt so badly, allowed me to go back in there, but to go in there and to connect with these past selves, these past experiences, and to gently lead them to the door and say, hey, you have been there for me. You've stayed here because I think this is a protection thing, and you have helped when I was 12. And in my mind, it's a gentle process. It's not like, get the hell out, get out the door. It's not that. It's been, please, I welcome you to the door and I invite you to leave. I'm safe now. I'd say my first significant psilocybin journey. I wanted to have somebody with me and have a sitter that wasn't my spouse. He had his own experience, and he had how he wanted to encounter his experience. I wanted to have mine, and I wanted to feel free, and I wanted to feel safe. I just needed it to be my experience. So I slowly started to reach out, and eventually, after talking with several people, I met a guy. The energy between us was great. It felt very right. So I made the plan to go to this space. I took my kit, my blanket. I had a large body pillow. For me, it was mushroom tea. I made my tea. I made my dose, had it all ready to go, packed up, went to the place. The guy that worked with me was really cool. I mean, just a very laid back person, very relaxed. We sat down first, and he said, well, so, get comfortable whenever you're ready. Take your dose. Sat for a while, then I did. And the space, I should say, that was offered to me was this beautiful, open, light-filled. There were a few plants, but very open, lots of skylights. It was a very calming space. I took the dose when I felt comfortable. I was surprised at how good the tea was. And then he invited me over to a table where he had some pencils and paper set up. And he said, I'd like to encourage you, if you would like to write an intention. I was very, very thankful that he did that, because I did. I sat for a couple minutes and I wrote down what I want to do it was about letting go. I wanted to release these things that I felt were painful, again, that I had just been holding on to. My intent was also to be fully present. I wrote this down and I had it, and then went up to the space where I was just going to have my experience. I had my eye shades, I had headphones, I had music. I went there and relaxed and let go. It was a lot. There were colors. There was a lot of not undefined colors, movement. There were a couple of surprises. One was there was a lot more that came up about my mother I didn't expect. My mother died when I was young. She was only 47 and I was 23, and she's been gone for a while. I kept encountering young versions of me, and whether it was an experience I remember, some random thing for whatever reason my brain had held on to, but over and over, I kept encountering young versions of me. I wasn't seeing happy me. I was seeing scared me. I was seeing just a young kid who desperately wanted, I think, to feel safe. I needed to make sure my mom was okay. I was taking care of her. I was doing that whole child as parent thing. And what that came up with was my young self didn't ever get to be a young self. I didn't get somebody else to protect me. In the journey, every time I saw my young self, I just went up to him and apologized and put my arms around him and loved him. When I realized in my life now, in my mid-50s, that I spent years not loving that young gay kid, not embracing him and giving him all the love he deserved, but I spent it all judging him, just like the other people did, and being afraid of his beautiful little gay unicorn self. I was afraid of it. When I was there in that experience and I could be with him, all that went away, and all I could do was put my arms around him and love him and apologize to him over and over. Just, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And that's why I was really glad I had my body pillow, because whenever I could be with him, I was holding him. I was there with him. I don't know how long that went on, but I feel like I just kept rolling in and out of these moments. And it was when I was 7, and I was 12, then I was 16, then I was 5. It was just these points over and over where I needed to love him, and then that was the letting go. It was, I can let it go. You can go. I know you've been here, and I know you're in my heart. It was like, I know you've been here all this time. I know you're hurting. And I know that you did all this stuff to protect yourself. And here I'm here to say, you don't have to protect yourself anymore. And you're welcome to the door. It's a beautiful world. Go out and walk around. It's okay. You're safe here. I promise you, you are safe and you are loved. I felt so fully a part of that. I don't know how to other than just a connection. There was just this beautiful full soul connection with that past version. That was the first part of my journey. And then at one point I had to pee. So I had to take a break. I had to like take off the headphones and lift up my eye shades, and then I sat there in the room, and there were beautiful plants around. The second half, it was less about that past and in some ways more about my present with imagery that was there. Again, this going back to this letting go. I remember consciously thinking, oh, I don't feel that ego dissolution thing. While I never felt that level of, again, of ego dissolution of that, I did feel this profound sense of calm and of being exactly in the place I was in. The manifestation of what I could see was my fear. If I don't hold on, then this person is going to leave, just like the kids did. And I had the clearest vision of my husband as this magical creature. It sounds cheesy, but the way I saw it was almost like Wonder Woman's lasso, this golden cord. It wasn't tied to him, but it was a part of him, and it came down to my hands. I saw it and I was like, I was holding on to it, and then realizing there's nothing to hold. I had the clearest vision of saying to myself, if you try to hold this other person, that act of holding is going to make them go away. So can you just open your hands? And I did. And I remember doing this while I was in my journey, opening my hands. In some way, I guess teaching myself or giving myself that reminder over and over that letting go is beautiful and it's safe and it's okay. The same message I was giving to my young self. You're safe. It's okay. And doing that over and over, even with my husband. That representation saying to be in this world now, be present with your hands open. I can't say that I left the experience that when I came out of the journey and I came back to my real life, like my whole life is transformed and I'm a whole new person. It's not what I was looking for, and it was not no expectation of that. But the fact that this shift had occurred, the fact that I was able to really go back and revisit these past pains, let go of them, to genuinely just to be able to open my hands and let go of some of that, that was what was transformative to me. Psilocybin allowed me to go back and revisit these things that I have been desperate to find out. How do I process? How do I release this so that I move forward in a loving way, knowing I have honored where I was? The biggest thing is that I was able to let go and release things that I didn't know I could. I was able to bring some of this experience into my therapy. With integration, part of it is to allow these changes to be real, to trust that there has been a shift. Again, not that it's been this full 100% transformational, I'm a different human now, but that shift where, however large or small, whatever, that it is something that is real and that I can, in fact, continue this journey and continue to let these things move and to help continue to let go. Having that connection to others, knowing you are not alone, knowing that you are not the only person who's having these questions or these people, the only person who's had these doubts or the only person who's had these fears, finding people you trust and being open about your hesitation. I would say the biggest thing is whatever you can do to alleviate those hesitations or to truly address whatever fears there are, address those. Just really going in with, okay, I might be uncomfortable. I might be like, oh, I don't know what's going on. That's different than I don't know what's going on and I'm afraid of it. To me, I would say the biggest tool is find those resources, whether they're people, whether it's a group, whether it's books. Find a way to connect with these other resources to get rid of fears around embracing the journey. It has really opened my eyes to how wondrous our brains are, our psyches are, our consciousness is, and how we are connected to the world. When we share our experiences, whatever they are, when we are open and share, here's what I went through, here's what I'm about. If somebody connects with me or looks at this because I look like someone they trust or someone they know or whatever the connection point is, it allows that person, I think, to push open their door and let more information in. It might not resonate, it might not connect, I mean, someone could visit and still be like, which is cool, wherever you need to be. But if you can connect with whatever other person, whatever other stuff, whoever can connect with you and help you to open a door. I don't know that I've ever come across for myself an open door that didn't lead me to something that ultimately helped me. I feel like sharing this is the same reason that as the person that I am, I have over the years shared about my experience as an openly gay guy that's always been out my whole life. And what I went through, and my all the shit I went through, being teased and all that stuff. Okay, but I've turned out okay. I have a great life. So the more we share, I don't know. And then it also just seems like why are we here if we can't love each other and share what we've experienced? It does me less good to just, it's my precious, I'm going to go, no, it's okay. My hands are open. You just share.